Dr. Rhonda Hamilton, thank you for joining us here, running as an independent. Good to see you out of Ward 6. And we were just talking a little bit off camera, but this is not your first foray into politics, as you had a lot of people who supported you as a write-in candidate last time around. You're going through this again, and this is going to be a year of change because we know Mayor Muriel Bowser is not running for re-election. How would you differentiate yourself from what we've seen for the past 12 years as the executive of D.C.?
I believe amongst my candidates and my opponents, I should say, I'm the only candidate that's been on the ground in the trenches with the citizens. I'm the only one that's been calling for the accountability, to be honest with you. I am the one that's been preparing legislation and trying to bring the solution as opposed to just raising the problem. I believe that while we watch the wealth gap widen on my current opponents' watch, while we watch housing costs rise for working class families, the rapid gentrification of pushing families out of the city, I have been in the trenches, and not many of my opponents can say that.
What is the number one issue right now in 2026 for Washington, D.C. and for its taxpayers?
Absolutely, the fact that we still have taxation without representation. The threats to our home rule and our ability to be able to govern ourselves are very grave, and I can't imagine any of my opponents not agreeing.
And to that, would you, as mayor of D.C., be willing to work with the President of the United States?
Absolutely, we must. We're the nation's seat of governance. I believe that we have opportunity to bring the president back to the table and help him to understand what true leadership looks like, to really fight for the over 700,000 citizen voices who deserve to have representation on a level that they're not being over-policed, on a level that they're not worried about our city being taken over. I believe that the president is able to be made to understand why that's important. My God, he went halfway around the world to rescue another set of folks that were under siege, so to speak, from leadership. And I would imagine that the president would understand that district residents feel the same.
To that point, we've had a federal surge of the National Guard, of ICE agents, of a DEA, of all sorts of law enforcement on the streets of D.C. In what he called was one of the most violent cities in the world. The numbers have shown that the surge did in fact help. But how do you get D.C. under control with less crime, and at the same time, would you support the D.C. Police Department?
Well, absolutely. Let me say this. I believe that in order for D.C. to actually maintain its sovereignty, we need to demonstrate that we can run our own affairs, and that means police our streets. I would imagine that the D.C. that the president showed up and found is not the D.C. that we're going to move forward with. I believe that leadership makes a difference, and I've watched this president show respect for real leaders. And so the reality of our MPD being able to do their job, we just fork quite a bit of money out of our budget towards getting that personnel beefed up in order that we can take over our matters. The safe and beautiful operations center that the mayor previously put in place, we don't need that. We don't need that. We feel that the resources could be better used in other areas. We believe that our legal citizens should not have their communities, they shouldn't be harassed in their communities is what I'm saying. We don't want our citizens to live in fear. And we absolutely believe that D.C. should be safe and beautiful, which it will be under the proper leadership.
It seems as though you don't see eye to eye at all with a D.C. mayor from what I'm hearing. This is not, you would like to see a change here.
Yeah.
Did she have success? What was it, and what were the failures in your estimation?
I believe that our mayor had a plan to be able to improve the city. What I believe and where I believe she felt was leaving the citizens behind. When you have an imbalance, when you have an 81 times wealth gap, when you have housing costs being upwards of 60% of working class income coming in, when you see folks being pushed out of the city, when you watch the child poverty, youth poverty, I should say, and seniors who are concerned of being pushed out, I would believe that she's left much on the table, and we've got to correct that because we have folks that are coming to D.C. that are having a different experience, more so than folks that are rooted here.
How is an independent candidate, how do you break out and break through? Because you've got a contested Democratic primary with two people who are one former council member, another a current council member, Janice George and Kenyon McDuffie, who have raised a whole lot of money to compete against the crowded field. How does someone like Rhonda Hamilton pull through?
I love that question. You know, the bottom line, money doesn't vote. people vote. And the reality, when you look at D.C. local elections, which is what we did, we've had more folks that are on the sidelines that are not choosing to show up than folks that do vote. And as I mentioned, all of what we've been dealing with as a city, that happened on the watch of my existing opponents. So while the regular machine and the big business of politics in D.C. goes on autopilot, it is important that we recognize the citizens that want to be able to be a part of the process, who have lost their voices, who feel that those folks will not represent them. And to be honest with you, as an independent, we get the best of both worlds. We don't get caught up in partisan issues. We understand that D.C. citizens at this point deserve representation that will get the job done, that's already been on the ground, that understands their issues. Public government is always supposed to be about the people.
Rhonda Hamilton, we appreciate you stopping by the DMV zone for this interview.
Thank you so very much for having me.
See you soon. All right, let's move on here as